Today's a good day. I got fried chicken and I found a broom. So we're sitting over here in Tennessee today, just unload at midnight because, well, that's my life. And I've been watching the internet and especially on Facebook on a lot of the trucking forums, there's one question that seems to come up all the time. And it's about how fast and how much money can I make as quickly as possible. Here's the one that illustrated the point the most. He writes, okay, I want to be a truck driver. What's the most profitable way to do that in the shortest time? Any tips would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. If you're reading this, you're a legend. P.S. I'm not trying to get rich, just not trying to get taken advantage of. Thanks for the info you send my way. Stay safe. Love y'all. You know, this is a problem because he's asking a horrible question and he's already contradicted himself. This needs to stop. Trucking is not easy, and you're not going to make any money in it for a couple of years. You'll do all right. A lot of people do fall into a lot of good things. But the run-of-the-mill truck driver, no, not so much. He's got to pay his dues. And you have to kind of spend 2 or 3 years working into a rhythm or a pattern. If you don't make it in 6 months, don't get discouraged because nobody else did either. If you don't make it in a year, don't worry, nobody else did. If you don't make it in 5 years, you probably suck at what you're doing. But after a year, year and a half, 2 years, you start developing some ideas. You get familiar with the business. You start seeing trends and patterns and whatnot. And you really start focusing into where you want to be. If you want to haul tankers, car trailers, refrigerated, flatbed, whatever you want to do, and you start working yourself into a pattern, or you start angling towards these things that you want to do. You know, I had a heck of a first year, and this is a story about that. It was not easy. I went belly up broke twice, but you know what? I stuck it out, and I'm doing better than ever now. It took a few years, but it didn't have to be a bad thing, and I didn't allow it to be a bad thing. So here's my first year. Now let me put this up front. I did not come from a trucking family. I went to Wichita area Votech back when Votechs were still a thing that were being taught by actual truck drivers. Got my CDL. It was tough. It didn't cost me that much money, not like these mills now, but we had real old school truck drivers teaching us, and they taught us a lot. So after several weeks, I got my CDL and I needed a job. But how I got the job and how I went to school is a weird story in itself. Years ago, I used to run with a gal named Sheila. Now I remember that because she'll be coming back. No, she wasn't that bad. So I met her through... Actually, I met her on social media back in the late 90s, as dumb as that sounds. And we became friends. She lived up in Mount Hope, which was about an hour or so from me and at the time. And we became friends, started hanging out. Well, I made some joke about, well, I might as well just quit this and go be a truck driver. One day she says, you've said that 3 or 4 times. I said, yeah. She says, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and go do it? And I looked at her and I was like, you know what? Maybe I will. So I did. And went to truck driving school, and it was just like any other truck. Well, no, it wasn't like any other truck driving school today. It was a good school. Had good teachers. It's too bad they ran them off. And suddenly I needed a job. Well, Sheila knew a guy who had a friend who knew somebody that was looking for a driver to haul grain. And so I ended up making a phone call to the right person, and they hired me to drive a truck. Now, I get into this truck, and it was an ugly truck. It looked like this, only it was much, much uglier. It was white, but it still had the 4 sealed beam headlights and red stripes. So I go up, I meet the guy at the Big M truck stop in Hutchinson, Kansas, and we talk. Nice guy from Kansas City. Leased a truck on to EL out of Windham, and had a grain hopper attached to it. Kind of wanting to venture out. So he says, I said, I just came out. He said, you know how to work on a truck? Which should have been a red flag when I said yes. And I said I was a mechanic in the Army. And I said, good. I need a guy with a little bit of mechanical know-how, you know. No problem, I got that. And so I meet him at the Big M truck stop there in Hutchinson, Kansas, and we go for our first test drive. So we fire up the truck, leave the Big M, and head over to Zenda, which is about 40 minutes away. Pick up a load of grain, take it to the world's largest grain elevator in Hutchinson, Kansas, and that's what we're doing today. I said, all right, now you drive. So I did a round. I said, you sound good. He said, well, now you do it, run yourself. So I dropped him off at the Big M so he could do his paperwork. I do a run myself. And he says, all right, that's what we're doing. Here's the numbers, this, that, and the other thing. Good luck. He got up, got in his car, never saw him again. And that was a problem because he didn't leave me a fuel card either. So I had 2 problems at that point. So as time went on, I started figuring out the business, and I had to be very self-reliant. My training period lasted 2 hours and 45 minutes before I was completely thrown to the wolves. And I had to make it work. I had to make it work. I didn't have a choice. I had to do it. So, you know, over the next few months, I start figuring it out. I work with the people we're leased to. They hook me up with a fuel card. They really helped me out. The guys over at Bingston Farms, the Bingston brothers, solid people. You know, I owe them my career because they really showed me what good people to work for are all about. If these had been horrible people, I wouldn't be doing this right now. So this guy started owing me a lot of money. He was draining me. All my savings were kind of going away. I wasn't making a whole lot. I was paying the bills. But the guy owed me a lot of money because if there had to be a repair or something on the road, like I had to buy a steer tire. And I had to pay for that. And I had to get my money back. Well, through the grapevine, I find out, old boy's not paying his bills either. There are repo agents looking for the truck. So they find out where the truck is, and the Bigston boys are like, look, he owes us a lot of money. He owes the driver a lot of money. And he works out a deal with the repo agent to get everybody paid first. Get all of us paid. But he says, look, here's the deal. He said, leave the truck full. They said they can't repo it if it's loaded. That's part of the deal. Leave it loaded. But when you go home, take everything out of the truck. And call before you come up. So this went on for a couple weeks. Every Friday, I'd clean the truck out. Every Monday, I'd call up. Until the one Monday, the call came, and he said, hey, they came and got the truck. I was like, all right. So, gave him back their, you know, I went up and I gave him back the fuel card and collected my last check and all that. And it was kind of bittersweet. But I kept in touch. And it all worked out because I did go back to work for them a little later. So, as you would consider, about 6 months, the truck is gone. Sheila, she's still in the picture. Of course, she's gotten married by now. And she's married to a guy named Andy. Andy has a friend he works for named Kelly. And Kelly has an idea. He wants to haul cars. So me and Andy, they're like, you guys want a team? And we're like, No, but we both need the work. So, yes. And he has one old FLD and 2 old Melton trucks. So he's got 3 trucks. He was hauling groceries for Dillon's. And he wants to put one of them on hauling cars. So me and Andy, we do a little bit of our research and say, hey, this is what we need. We've looked it up, we figured it out, we talked to a few people. We need a trailer this wide, this long to hold at least this many cars and full-size cars. So Kelly does completely the opposite. He gets us a 6 car, we can only put 4.5, maybe 5 cars on. And it's 96 inches wide. We actually got a car stuck on the bottom. We thought we were going to have to cut it out. We actually thought we were going to have to cut the car out of the trailer. That's another story. So we start hauling cars, and first week or two it's good. We're headed out to the east, or to the west coast. We're in California every week. 2 of us, man, we are putting on miles. We are putting on a lot of miles. And so we're leaving out Sunday night, Monday morning, and we're back every Friday night, Friday afternoon, Friday night. We are cooking. I mean, there ain't no grass growing under these. So as you can imagine, the thing started falling apart pretty much the time it got started. Andy and I were frustrated at Kelly. Kelly was frustrated at both of us. Andy and I were both frustrated at each other. You know, it started turning into a volatile thing on the road. The trailer was breaking down. We were chucking wheels left and right. And, I mean, the thing would just throw wheels. But what I found out they were doing was, these were 10-lug wheels, but instead of spending the money on real semi-wheels, they were taking 10-lug Chevy 1-ton wheels and torching out the centers. Well, as anybody knows, when you heat up a wheel that hot, and then you put 450 foot-pounds to a steel wheel that was just torched, it cracks. And man, we lost wheel after wheel after wheel. We had things just fly. In fact, that's how I ended up riding in a CHP car. I was walking down the highway looking for my wheels. And yeah, so that was a fun story. Yeah, nice car. Got a ride in the back. Couldn't get out. That was a job that I was angry about for years. Until one day I woke up and realized a lot of the problems and things that had happened I'd been in control of and I didn't know. I was blaming people, but I made some pretty poor decisions. That was all part of the learning. Sheila and I, we are friendly. I haven't talked to her in quite some time. Andy, I haven't seen hiding her hair. Him, Kelly, no. Those 2 probably pretty much hate me, and the feeling's mutual. I don't really hate either of them, but I prefer not to deal with them. But I think what was going on was just everybody wanted to be a chief. Nobody wanted to be an Indian, but the problem was the chief had no idea what was going on. And every time we would give him a lead or give him advice, it was just we were completely being ignored, and the money was starting to not be there, and we were cutting our own throats. And I mean, hauling cars is a cutthroat business. And Kelly, being as inexperienced as the rest of us, his disadvantage was he wasn't out here seeing what we were seeing. But he thought since he was talking to the broker, he could broker all these cheap, quick flips. And as I've explained before, there's no such thing as easy money out here. Everybody easy money he ever got ended up costing us. He was stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. But you know, it was his business, and it wasn't my job to be telling him what to do. But eventually, that whole deal fell apart, and it fell apart horribly. And we destroyed some good friendships over it. And I'm kind of sad like that. The personalities got in the way to destroy what possibly could have been good working relationships and good friendships over stupidity. But that happens. So once again, I'm without a job. The one thing that job did was basically keep me indoors and got me over the hump to the next thing. And the next thing was going back hauling grain. I made a phone call. They said, hey, we got a truck open if you want it. I was like, I'm there. And I did not make a lot of money. In fact, I was just barely keeping my head afloat. But it got me, even though I was just barely floating, it got me to a stable part of floating, to where I could breathe a little bit. I had a few options, and it gave me some time to start figuring out what I needed to do next. And they put me in a really nice, I had a 1994 Freightliner FLD, flat top. Love that truck. To this day, the FLD is my favorite truck. Had an N14 Cummins in it and a 10-speed, and I was real comfortable. Well, I can make that truck move. And, you know, I finished out my first year. And eventually, you know, after my first year, it came to the point where I was ready to step back out of the truck and try to find something local, which didn't pan out, and I ended up doing my first over-the-road gig, my first real over-the-road gig, and that's a story for another day. I'll have to get some good, I got some good pictures and stuff from all that, and I'd like to incorporate those in the next video I do about this. But the first year was tough. My first year was very tough. And when people sit there and say, what is the quickest, easiest way for me to fill in the blank, they're not going to last. They're not going to make it. They don't want to put in the work. You have to put in the work. And it's a lot of work. And the first year sucks for everyone. Unless you have some kind of magic or somebody owes you a favor, you fall into something incredible. And that just happened. Don't get me wrong. But for the average Joe like me, you gotta put in your dues. You gotta be willing to go broke at least once. You're not going to get rich. I've been at this 20 years, and I'm doing all right. And about the last 7, I've been doing well. But about the last 5, there was a couple years in there that were pretty lean. But that was the last company, and they were trying. Well, that's another story for another day. Also, I don't want to get sued over that one. But there's no magic 8-ball. There's no easy way. There's no... I had to be willing to put up with a lot of crap and basically wade hip deep through the muck till I got to the other side. Till I got to a point to where I had basically, you know, chewed my bone and, you know, showed people what I was capable of. You know, put a little work history behind myself. And, you know, you have to build up a little bit of a reputation on paper. That's what happens. That's why I tell these guys there's no easy way, there's no easy money, and if you job hop, especially too much in the first year, by the second year, you're going to be almost unhireable. So, you got to put in your dues and hope for the best. I mean, it works out, but you got to let it. So, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Y'all have fun out there. And if you're just starting out, good luck. It's a little bit of work, but it pays off in the end. Trust me on that. We'll catch you next video.